Machine!
The Machine Age has brought a lot of changes to Stellaris. The synthetic and cybernetic ascension paths have changed. In this video, we're going to explore the Synthetic Ascension Path, which has a new synthesization situation, allowing you to explore the impacts of synthetic ascension on your population, along with new advanced authority types. You can either pursue a physical existence as synthetics or a new virtual existence. However, I must warn you already, both of these paths are just worse versions of the modularity or virtuality ascension paths available to individualistic machine empires. Let's dive in and find out what's going on. In order to synthetically ascend your empire, just like with Cybernetic, you'll need to complete 3 traditions and unlock your 3rd ascension perk. Then for your 3rd ascension perk, you can take Synthetic Evolution. This then gives you access to the synthetic tradition, but you will need to also unlock the artificial administration technology first. In order to get to that technology, you'll have to research powered exoskeletons, artificial workforce, and artificial specialists, the droid technology. Taking the synthetic evolution agenda will give you the tech option and 25% progress in the next tech in that line, with the final technology being the synthetic worker technology, artificial administration. Once you have artificial administration, you can then dive down the synthetic path and open this tradition. Just like with the cybernetic ascension, opening this tradition starts the synthesization situation. To even begin this situation though, you will have to build the identity complex building somewhere in your empire. This grants 2 identity designer jobs, which at this point only produce a small amount of amenities and engineering research with quite a high alloy upkeep relative to those outputs. Once you've done that, you'll get a monthly change to this situation. Its time to finish is 100 months, however, we can reduce the situation speed and decrease the amount of engineering research we're spending, also getting more beneficial events, or alternatively increase the speed at which we are synthesizing, which also increases our engineering upkeep, but does come with a higher risk of challenging or negative events. Like Cyberization, you'll get a series of events as you go through this situation. Some of them can improve your identity complex, like the better builds, allowing you to improve either your ruler, specialist, or worker output, or everything on the identity complex. Unlike Cybernetic, however, the identity complex is an empire-specific building, so this bonus will only ever apply to one planet and not every single planet in your empire, making it slightly weaker. The synthesization situation will allow you to explore the impacts of synthetically ascending on your empire and the people living within it. You'll have to address questions like whether or not uploading a consciousness is really possible, or if it's just a copy of someone else's mind. Some members of your species may not want to synthetically ascend and instead hang on to the past. We can choose to fund some cities where biological populations can live even after the rest of our civilization has turned to the blessed machine. Halfway through the synthesization situation, you can then begin uploading people's minds into their new synthetic bodies. This will unlock the subsidized identity backups, granting you longer leader lifespan and more experience gain. This edict will be essential to save those members of your population, those leaders that are near death, that you then want to back up on synthetic bodies. You'll also get a biological enclave on your capital planet. Now, this will reduce your stability and increase crime, because as we all know, those pesky biologicals cannot be trusted, but you do have the option to clear this enclave at a high alloy cost, because of course by clearing it, we're actually synthetically uploading every person living here, and then gaining a couple of mechanical pops from these cleared out biologicals. Every month, some number of pops will be digitized, and you can see that happening in real time as your biological populations change over to their new synthetic way of life. At the end of every month, these numbers will shift around, until eventually no biological pops are left in your empire. And if you're enjoying this video, please synthesize that like button. There is so much flavor now in the game during this synthesization process. For example, a resistance may form against the synth movement, and you might have to either round up these biological leaders or just try and defuse the situation. As you continue your investigation into the digital world and you are digitizing more and more minds, you'll have to deal with what to do about biological reproduction. Enter the identity designers. They're going to investigate how we can continue propagating and expanding our species when we no longer have the ability to birth new living minds. This will unlock the Optimized Identity Creation Edict, which will grant you plus 15% mechanical pop assembly speed if you activate it. And now the Identity Complex will have further benefits. The 2 Identity Designer jobs will now grant you an empire-wide monthly mechanical pop assembly. So you'll get an additional 2 pop assembly on every single planet from this Identity Designer building, which can be anywhere. Eventually, you'll be left with a stark choice. Do you either mix together previous personalities in order to create new ones, and that could be your new form of reproduction, or use some artificial tricks to stimulate entirely new personalities in a simulacrum of biological reproduction? Both options will grant you a technology, and when you eventually research that technology, you'll get access to a new policy. Depending on whether you chose identity copies or identity fusion, you'll basically get some empire-wide debuffs, but when you finally research identity initialization, you'll get quite a nice boost to happiness and resources from jobs empire-wide at the cost of a moderate increase to pop assembly. With the conclusion of the synthesization process, you have finally fully synthetically ascended. At this point, the synthetic tradition no longer just grants situation speed, but will grant you actual meaningful bonuses in your empire. You don't need to research artificial personality matrix in order to retain your synthetic leaders and recruit new synthetic leaders. The artificial personality matrix, which becomes available as a research option when you take synthetic, only applies to your robotic non-main population. On the left-hand side of this tradition, you'll get reduced robotic pop amenities usage and increased robot output, which combined with the base plus 10% from synthetic grants you 20% more output empire-wide. You'll also get access to the species rights to assimilate any new population groups into your primary robot population. You'll get a reduction to robot upkeep and +1 roboticist job on every capital building in your empire. Additionally, your roboticists will produce +2 amenities. Completing this tradition grants you 2 more mechanical species trait picks and 2 more mechanical species modification points, in addition to a -50% modify species special project cost. As long as you have the machine template technology allowing for robo-modding, you can then create templates for your synthetic populations. Just like with cyborgs, durable and loyalty circuits is a potent combination. However, unlike cyborgs, you get access to some rare resource traits that give you very big bonuses. Exotic fuel consumption increases your base resource output from jobs by 15%, and rare crystal extractor will increase your metallurgist output by 20% as well. You also get all of the base robot traits like mass produced for increased mechanical pop assembly speed. But Synthetic Ascension is not over yet. A few months to a year after you complete the Synthesization Situation, you will begin a new event chain to unlock advanced authority types. There are 2 main paths you can go down with this change. Either you can focus on the physical world or the new virtual world. You'll never become quite as powerful as a fully virtual ascended machine empire, but you can get some of the bonuses if you go down a virtual route, like changing all of your leaders to virtual, granting them immortality, as opposed to synths, which do not get immortality. If you manage to maintain a balance while going down this event chain, you can pick either the virtual or the physical of the 2 new authorities your empire will have access to. First, let's look at the new virtual authorities your synthetic empire will get access to. If we're a democracy, we can grab the Democratic Surrogacy Authority type. This will grant us plus 50% Edict Fund, which is a massive boost to your overall Edict Fund. It will reduce governing ethics attraction by 25%, massively reduce war exhaustion gain by -50%, which when combined with other technologies and traditions can basically mean your empire will never gain war exhaustion, which is crazy. You will in essence be playing as a Nemesis Crisis faction, never forced to surrender unless you are fully occupied by an enemy power. You'll also get increased sublight speed and ship assembly speed. On top of that, all of your leaders will become virtual rather than being synthetic. This has very similar bonuses. The main difference here is your military fleets will have a slightly different bonus, and your leaders will now all be immortal and thus never die. Your ruler will also no longer provide additional pop assembly empire-wide. That is something of a debuff. The advanced oligarchic government type will increase your ruler resource output per enforcer, increase ruler upkeep, decrease edict cost and edict upkeep, and massively reduce your empire size from districts and planets. Combining this with Imperial Prerogative means you can get to 0 empire size from planets and thus be a very, very, very wide empire indeed. The virtual dictatorial authority is dictatorial indoctrination. You'll get +5 effective ruler skill, which can be combined with Philosopher King to give you somewhere in the region of 15, 20, or 25 effective ruler skill, granting a massive reduction to pop amenities usage empire-wide. Combining that with durable can basically mean your pops pretty much never use amenities. You will get a reduction to research speed and an increase to researcher upkeep, but your population will be very much on board with all of the decisions you make. Plus 100% governing ethics attraction and a 50% ethics shift chance increase will mean every pop in your empire will follow your governing ethics and be very happy about it. You do get a minor reduction to building upkeep and building cost with this authority. Imperial Transmission is basically like the zombie faction of robots. Every single robot army that is defeated has a 33% chance to return to the fight fully restored. This can be amazing when defending or invading enemy planets, as your robotic armies will consistently return to the fight over time. You'll get a minor bonus to worker pop resource output, but a reduction to mechanical pop assembly speed. However, every single ship in your fleet then gets 5% increase to daily hull and armor regen. In combat, this isn't very much, but it means outside of combat, you will never have to return any fleet you own to a dry dock for repairs, because within 20 days, they will always be returned to full armor and hull strength. The Megacorp authorities here are very, very close to a virtual ascension. With the Corporate Recollection, the virtual Megacorp authority, you'll get access to the Clear Thought Clinic. This branch office building increases trade value but decreases happiness on the planet it is placed. It also grants you a small increase to energy and consumer goods output. It also outputs a base amount of energy and consumer goods. The main power here, though, comes from the Computation Core Focus. The Computation Core Focus is basically one of the virtual tradition picks. You can choose to either get production streamlining, all of your clerks will increase your alloys from job by 0.5% per clerk instead of providing extra trade value. You can get stability analysis to increase unity from jobs by 0.5% per clerk instead of extra trade value, or instead get research processes, increasing your research points from job by 0.5% per clerk instead of additional trade value. On Ecumenopolis or Ring Worlds, this can be very, very powerful. When it comes to the physical authorities, we're a little bit different. We will no longer get the virtual trait. Instead, your leaders will retain the synthetic trait, which does grant you as governors increased robot output for every planet. And the military leaders will have a slightly different effect, in this case more fire rate and armor hardening. You also get +1 mechanical pop assembly every month from your ruler, which is very, very powerful, as this goes out to every single planet in your empire and will be further modified by pop assembly bonuses. Democratic transference will increase your specialist output by 1% for every district on the planet. Very large planets, for example with 25 districts, then get a 25% bonus to specialist output. There is a slight penalty you have to pay here, and that's a 1% district upkeep increase per district. But even at 25 districts, that's only 25% extra district upkeep, which is very, very manageable. Just like the virtual democratic authority, you'll get +25% edict fund and a -25% reduction to governing ethics attraction. However, your automatic resettlement chance increases by 100%, making planet management much more bearable. The oligarchic authority increases your ruler resource output per enforcer by 5% and increases ruler upkeep by 15%, much like the other. You'll also get a 25% bonus to unity from bureaucrats and -10% bureaucrat upkeep. Honestly, this is probably one of the weakest advanced authorities. Dictatorial Manifold increases your effective ruler skill by 5, just like the other dictatorial authority, and reduces research speed by 5%. You'll also get similar bonuses to worker pop resource output and reductions to district upkeep and district cost. Imperial feedback is a little strange. Your leaders will grant you research points upon their death. Scientists will grant physics research, official society research, and commanders engineering research. With the right traditions, civics, and policies, you can easily get level 6 leaders as base, and then send them to suicide into enemy fleets, or just generally let them die, and thus grant you boosts to your research output. You'll also get more worker pop resource output and a reduction to pop assembly speed. The Corporate Authority unlocks the AI Emporium branch office building. This grants you some energy credits and physics research output, but the main bonus here is that whichever planet you place it on gets a 5% resource from job increase. This generally won't help your empire, but it can work quite well synergistically if another empire is your vassal and you're gaining resources through tax from that empire. You of course also unlock the computation core focus, much like the other Corporate Authority, thus granting you some massive bonuses to either Unity, Alloys, or research output per clerk on your planet. Overall, Synthetic Authority is generally just a worse version of the Virtual or Modularity Ascension. If you really want to play a robotic empire, it is honestly just better to start off as an individualistic robot and then ascend with the Robot Ascension Paths. Going synthetic is still viable, but generally it's a little bit weaker than cybernetic and definitely weaker than the virtual or modularity traditions. If you've enjoyed this video on Synthetic Ascension in the Machine Age, but you want to hear more about the other alternative robotic path that you can go down as a biological empire, which is honestly just a little bit more powerful these days, then click the video on screen now.